delighted to have been invited here today. We are due to do a session as the two Ronnies shortly, but for now I think we'll just stick to the brief as best we possibly can. Our thanks to our colleagues from Shropshire Council for their visionary presentations. I think I'd have to say here, and this is no blowing smoke at the council, but if this had taken place 5 years ago, we'd have seen nothing like the intensity, the detail, the awareness of what circumstances are. So I think we should all be taking comfort from the fact that people in the organisation are making a difference. I should have introduced myself. My name is Richard Sheehan. I'm the Chief Executive of Shropshire Chamber of Commerce.
Mike Goodall, Development Manager for the Federation of Small Businesses.
And we are tasked to facilitate this, as in not give opinions particularly, but to facilitate gaining from you information about what the future looks like from your business perspective, from your sector, as you are currently representing that as well. So it's really important that we gain your feedback. But I think just to look back at what we've just seen, we've seen that there's a tremendous amount of planning, investment, opportunity coming. For me, there's one key ingredient missing, and that's the people that we put into these wonderful facilities and these developments. We know from engagement with our business community, Mike, I know you'll support this, that they are struggling. They really are struggling to recruit at this moment in time. Never ever have I, in my limited time in the chamber, my long time on this planet, seen a situation quite like this, where recruitment has actually completely changed. Businesses are now having to sell themselves to potential employees, where the old advert going in and people coming along and selling themselves to the business that's a thing of the past. It's gone. If you actually are serious about recruiting quality people, you've got to sell yourself as a business. Mike, we've got to run through, I think, some questions. So I'm going to encourage you, because I've got new reading glasses. Anybody ever had new reading glasses and then tried to use them on the first day? Good, isn't it? So we're going to run through a number of questions. In your packs, you will have copies of a SWOT analysis that was put together by our friends from the University of Chester through University Centre Shrewsbury. And primarily, it will feed into what we've heard this morning. What we need to understand from you is do you recognise what was in that SWOT? Do you recognise the images that were portrayed of Shropshire and its position currently? And more importantly, what's missing? What do you need and what's missing? But Mike, I think there's a string of questions, and I think I'll ask you to, because I've realised, put them on, I can't see, take them off, I can't.
So the first question is really about whether or not you recognise some of the stats, the presentations you've heard today. Does it feel familiar? Has anything come as a surprise? Is there anything really missing? But in terms of the analysis that you've got in your packs around supporting local businesses and the findings of the Economic Recovery Task Force, we looked at various things that we thought were important, and providing comprehensive business support services was one of the key requirements. And so whether or not we've got that right, whether or not business support is fit for purpose, whether improvements could be made, what's working well, is as important as talking about what's not working so well. But how do we support new and existing employers and employment in the county? And how do we support the business workforce and well-being? That's an increasingly important subject that's come through, particularly through the pandemic, is people's well-being in terms of physical and mental health as we go forward. Healthy workforce is a productive workforce, as they say. And how do we support businesses to adopt corporate social responsibility going forward? Is it more of the same that we've had before, or are there opportunities to do things a little bit differently? We've got some schemes already running quite successfully in the county around peer-to-peer support, which is getting businesses to share business leaders to share their knowledge more widely, which is working well. Could we do more of that? Is that worthwhile? Is there an opportunity to expand that? And also, how do we facilitate sector growth? Are there specific niche sectors that we should really be focusing our activities on to drive the economy forward, particularly perhaps in light of the green economy, COP26 and all the announcements that have been made in the past 24, 48 hours.
Right, thanks. And for our colleagues online, if you do have any questions or any contribution, please do feed it in. This is absolutely your opportunity to have your voice heard and to help shape the future of support. A quick question for the businesses in the room, because I know we're joined by one or two of our council colleagues. How many of you in the room as a business have engaged with business support over the last, let's take out the COVID grant bit, over the last 3 years? How many of you have actually engaged with business support? 2. Okay. Was that helpful at the time?
Yeah,
do you want more of it? What does it look like? What do you need?
Well, I'm a startup, so I'm quite rapidly growing a business.
Okay.
So
Take the microphone, put the people on the screen. Thank you.
yeah, so I run a startup. We're growing quite quickly. For me, as much advice developing a business as I can get is really welcome, really. So I've just got emailed an application we've got for our business growth grant that we're putting in because we're taking on some more people. All of that's really useful. So I can't really fault it. The only thing I would say it would be slightly more flexibility. That's not a criticism, but business is changing rapidly. So some of the criteria for some of the guidance is a little bit out of date, possibly, but that's minor criticism, really.
Yeah, I think we're in a rapidly accelerating, changing world, and obviously things do change, and keeping up with it is quite a challenge. And yourself?
Oh, hi there. I know Simon, and it's one of the challenges that perhaps he's had as well. Is I moved to the area about 6 years ago. I had a business set up in the southeast. Wanted to kind of move into this area and build networks and recruit people. And one of the challenges I had pre-pandemic was the amount of co-working space and opportunities to hubs to find people and to connect. And I suspect that's even more of a problem now. So that's something I'm really interested in finding out about. What's the situation now? Has it moved on? Are there opportunities to bring people together? It was interesting hearing that there are a lot of people moving to the area. So for me, it's like, how can we find out more about those people? What are their needs? What are their roles? What are their skills? Is there a different way we can tap in to that knowledge to find out who these people are? And can we bring them together? Are there potential community networking groups? Can we do more rural co-working, that kind of stuff? So there's lots of different ways of perhaps bringing people together that we hadn't thought about before because perhaps we didn't need to. But now, as you were saying earlier, people are being very careful about which jobs, opportunities they take up. So, we need to understand what the psychology is, where people are, so that we can build opportunities and networks that are suitable for them.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that, and I think you're absolutely spot on with that, and I think there is a significant marketing piece for our local authority colleagues here, because obviously there is a perception that people coming to the area, they're selling up, they're coming from the metropolitan areas, they're retiring and settling down. Some have recently. But on the basis of that, there are so many people who perhaps are moving here but can still work remotely. How do we tap into that talent and try and draw them into some of these fantastic projects that are being developed across the county that will need people to fill those sheds and fill those offices? No question about it. We have a real challenge there. And the marketing piece also then will be about attracting people to come here and bring their businesses. There's still a big piece to do around that. Inward investment is the title, but actually, there's a whole raft of we've got land available, we're developing more, we need to do far more than we are now about promoting that, and that's a big piece. Mike, sorry.
No, it's just on that point. I mean, there's relatively few people put their hands up there in terms of accessing support. So just as a two general questions. Is business support complicated, complex? Is it completely unfathomable, or is it just that it's not needed? And if business support is needed, is it always about finance or is it something else? Is it around, like the gentleman mentioned there, around the networks and collaborative working? So 2 questions for you then. So how complex is it? Can you navigate it? And is it all about money or is it about actually something else? Anybody? Any views? Apparently not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably quite difficult because you've probably not got too many people running business. It's obviously both. Money is incredibly important, especially in my case with a startup. We haven't taken any investment yet, so we're growing organically, so we've been really careful with our money. But likewise, advice, it has to be both. And I think just running on with comment, and hopefully I'm not going to be too vocal, I mean, because part of my business is involved with understanding how organisations work. So we have big corporate organisations. So I can see from their side how large organisations are really changing how they deal with their workforce. So never before has well-being and lifestyle been so important. It's the only way you can really attract and retain decent talent is to give people what they want. And people have got choice now. I think the fact of having that mixture of advising a business on not just organisational structures, but in terms of what the new workforce are requiring. So, yeah, that ability to share and collaborate, not just having a core team of business advisors, but actually being able to network, being able to. So, for example, and without being rude, I've not gone to Chamber of Commerce. I just didn't feel like it sort of fitted me because we're a digital startup, and most of the people I employ are half my age. So, but to be able to connect and find like-minded businesses is incredibly valuable to share experiences, and because pace of change is so massive at the moment, it's really fluid. So things can change. Daily, weekly, so I think to be able to make a network and connect people up is paramount in terms of supporting local businesses to grow. Coming from having a business in London, that network's already there, but I don't think there's any reason that you can't start to have that network in more rural areas. We know we can work remotely. Everybody has the ability to work remotely, but people still want to communicate. They still want to meet up. They want like coffee shop experience. And from my understanding, how businesses are working, there's an opportunity to regenerate town centres, not just with shops, but with office spaces where people can drop in and work. So it's a new world. And yeah, as I say, it's an opportunity to re-look at how you can support businesses locally, not just with grants, not just with advice, but just with this sort of networking, connecting people up.
Pick up on that just interestingly, and fantastic graphics, by the way, that the council's put together in the pack today. But one that really stood out for me, which was Shropshire's population is about the same as Nottingham's, but actually its geographical area is 44 times as large. So actually that connectivity and how you facilitate that network is important. And I suppose it's kind of, as we do in the Chamber and FSB, the sort of hybrid model we have at the moment with virtual and physical events is interesting. We've always found it a bit of a challenge with physical events sometimes in the Shires in getting people there because of that remoteness. But anyway, that's something we can look at to do more of, is how to facilitate those connections, if you like, between businesses.
Thank you for the contribution. Where's your business based? Okay, right. But yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I think Shrewsbury, I think, is reasonably well served, in fairness, with opportunities to connect. I think where we perhaps are all missing a trick is the market town areas, who deserve more support than they actually get in terms of that ability. But yeah, I think. Sorry. I think the gentleman's just told us. I think we come together as stakeholders who work in partnership. We've got opportunities in and around the high streets of every market town, and we allocate a facility, we secure a facility to actually make that happen. You know, we've looked at sort of mobile activity going around. We present events all over the county, of course we do. But you need continuity. You need to know that this will happen on certain days, and it may only be 1 or 2 days a week when somebody's there, but at least you've got that outbreak, because running a business, as you'll know already, is a very lonely place. And having somebody to bounce ideas, concerns off, who's perhaps shared experiences, it's a really interesting one. Thank you for that. I think that's really important. Sorry, go on.
I just wanted to pick up on Simon's point about bringing the right people together, because there are kind of general business networking groups, but I also run a kind of creative business, and it's really important that we are connecting with the right sorts of people. So perhaps there's a bit of a mapping exercise that could take place, understanding who do we have here, what business do we have here, and how can we group the right people together. So if you are going out on one of these mobile networking things in a small village in Shropshire, who do we know is in the vicinity? How can we contact them? How can we bring them together? And then businesses can obviously develop from having the right people in the room at the right time.
Just coming back on that, so would you regard an event or something like that as being an opportunity to connect with like-minded people in your industry and sector, or would you be using it to look for business opportunity?
I think the answer is both, is knowing, you know, the different types of people that we're interested in meeting in relation to our business, and having different events that fit that.
Right. I think there's a balance there, Claire. I think we've got a number of sector-based groups that we run. Nothing around digital and creative at the moment. I have to say it is a focus for us, but we do a lot of general ones as well. I think the whole landscape needs to be reviewed and looked at in terms of how do we create these clusters of people working together. I think that's important.
I'm just interested on Simon's point here as to, you know, is it more than just the... Get a microphone to you, or the stream guys can't hear you.
Do we have any questions coming in after? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just a question coming back to Simon, really, and the gentleman. Just trying to understand, really, the collaborative aspect. Is it purely business, or is there a social aspect to it that brings the individuals together, particularly the younger generation of entrepreneurs who come together? You know, they tend to go to the funkier, cool places. So, you know, do you have to start thinking about creating those environments that bring those people together?
Sorry, it's just about what you're both saying. I work for CREST, the Centre for Research into the Environment and Technology at University Centre Shrewsbury, and we work with a lot of businesses, and we run a couple of groups in other areas: water, geospatial, and plastics. And the way we've approached that is to engage with industry, the council, and ourselves, and we've generated groups. So maybe there's something to do here. We could talk afterwards. Maybe we could look and introduce you to relevant people at the university, etc.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be great. And I think the university is a perfect opportunity to start networking as well, because it also ties in with understanding what skills needs are and how you can start to support generating skills. In answer to your question, Chris, I think it's paramount when you're trying to attract people to come and work to you that they feel that it's a destination that is going to, you know, it's not just for quality of life, but it is having that vibrancy. So I think just taking, for example, and I know co-working is a theme, and I do go on about it, but when you look at some of the co-working spaces in London, which are thriving at the moment, they do an awful lot of networking events, or they'll bring things like, you know, a lawyer in to talk about IP protection or something like that. Those are social events as well, and quite often, you know, they'll do them at the end of the day, they'll have a beer, they might have a band on later on. So you've got an opportunity, you know, and I think, you know, business is changing now. You know, you can have a beer and have a chat to somebody and do business quite easily. And I think it has to be a mixture. And I think that when you're looking at how you can establish a destination to attract that talent, It's the giving people the opportunity to mix with different sectors that gets really interesting. You know, when large organisations are sort of planning out who works what there, they quite often put different divisions and different departments so they can have that sort of water cooler moment. That's where the magic happens, I think, when you'll have somebody who's in tech talking to somebody who's, you know, in I don't know, talking in terms of a different division. That's when it gets interesting. So, but I do think there is a real opportunity to try and get these connections to semi-act organically as well. So, and they will snowball, and it can be a case of mixing things like the arts with business as well. And that's, I think, where we've got an opportunity in Shropshire as well. I think we've got all the ingredients. It's just how we can put it together.
Thank you. It is remiss of me, I should have asked you when you're speaking to introduce yourself and your company so we know who you are. And so, again, I blame the glasses. Oh, okay. I think we've got a couple of questions from
This is a good time maybe
colleagues
just
online.
to throw in some of the questions or the observations really that have come
Yeah,
in
that's what
from the people that are watching on stream. A couple talking about the connectivity and the networking side of it. Anna Sadler says, with regard to networking, March's Growth Hub Shropshire is running weekly online networking sessions, attracting between 40 and 60 businesses every week. So if anybody wants to know more about it, there's Anna and Emma at March's Growth Hub can tell you more about that. And Sue Lloyd has also been in touch to say that we do have an excellent intelligence function at Shropshire Local Authority where colleagues are linked into this. So if anybody wants to know more, then the information's available about things like population, demographics, movement and that sort of thing. And then just one more here that I guess sort of throws into to the talk about how you retain and keep staff is a question from Jane Trethaway who says, how far do business partners who are here need to be considering housing availability as part of all of this? The standards, affordability, and how that plays a part in companies' ability to attract and retain staff and sustain and grow their businesses.
I think the response to that one is interesting. In particular, obviously, we know about the local plans to develop an awful lot of housing, and generally our housing is less, we say more affordable, I'm trying to think of a polite word, than out of the area in other areas. So what we've seen on numerous occasions is people moving into the area, but finding they've got such a surplus of cash, they've actually decided either to start a small business or, you know, I can retire early because that's happened. But there's two elements to it. One is we still got to be able to make sure that our young people are able to create that work-life situation where they can actually buy a home. And my daughter worked in London, as an example. She was renting a flat with her husband, as he is now, for £1,200 a month, one-bedroom flat. She's moved up into Shropshire. She's bought a house. That was never possible in London. And she started a little business and off she goes. So absolutely right, we've got to be able to accommodate these people. But there's a whole joined up piece here because, you know, as I said right at the beginning, all these sheds, all these wonderful facilities that we are going to build need people. They need quality people, they need trained and skilled people, and we have to do more about that to make sure, because inward investment, people can go anywhere with their business at this moment in time, literally anywhere. So you have to have a complete offer in terms of your schooling, your infrastructure. Everything's got to be in place to attract the business in, and the people and the talent and the available workforce is so critical. So it's important that we do it. And we have gin, of course. Always. Yeah.
So I want to kind of add to that, because of what we're seeing quite a lot of, particularly with the entry-level staff and certainly people that work in hospitality and retail and things like that, is that they are starting to get priced out of the market. So if you look at just how quickly the property prices for rentals have gone up, because there's so much additional income, people selling their houses all over the country, moving here and don't really care about throwing 700, 800, 900 pounds on a one-bedroom flat until their house is ready 6 months down the line, then it's impacting on that ability to do it, as well as also the extension of the transportation links. You know, yes, we have got this massive area, I think you just touched on it, what was it, 44% the size of it, which is a massive issue, but when you look at accessibility, certainly for like nighttime economy, there isn't any, you know, taxis are difficult to get hold of, even though they're considerably better than they were 6 years ago when I moved here. Buses stop at 6, 7 o'clock. So there's lots of young people outside in the towns and the rural areas who are relying on parents and various other things to get them in to come out of work and do these things, and we physically can't get them in. And then it always goes down to the thing which is actually payroll. You've seen massively, I've seen people looking at jobs for bar where we're paying people £11, £12 an hour now to get them in to do a simple bar shift and get that experience, which is what they should be getting paid. But there's also a lot of places that are trying still to attract people on base minimum wage, and they're the ones that seem to be struggling. I'm not really struggling for staff because I paid them properly. So it's something to look at as we go forward.
I can cite a meeting yesterday with a recruitment agency where they pre-pandemic they had 13 to 14 candidates for every vacancy of a level, a decent level in fairness, that they were promoting. They struggle to get 2 or 3 now, and they struggle to get, of the 3, more than 1 to go for interview. The terms, and again, it goes back to the very beginning, recruitment's turned on its head. Businesses have got to sell themselves now, whether that's with a decent wage, whether that's with the health and well-being support that they give, the career development that they commit to in the beginning. There's a whole piece now where the world has changed and people are making choices, demanding to work from home or asking to work from home at least 3 or 4 days a week. And somebody in Shropshire can now work for a company in Birmingham or London or anywhere else and be paid considerably different. So we have to be mindful of that, and we have to work very hard to make sure that happens. Mike, sorry, I'm chirping.
I'm just conscious we've got a couple of other questions, only about 3 minutes left. So we probably need to move on to the next one, if that's possible. Okay, just a small topic here then. Key opportunities and challenges specific to Shropshire. Anybody got any views on that?
I think we've had a lot of views that actually contribute to
Yes.
that already, which I know are notes have been taken. But
yeah, it's kind of already been covered. I just wanted to add to what you were just saying there about well-being's come up a few times, and potential employees, having more choice. I think one of the big things that we need to look at is the culture of organisations. If you look at some of the most exciting organisations for young people to work in, they want to go to a place which is, Simon was saying, vibrant. Perhaps they're very empowered. Decision making is done in a different way. They feel really truly connected to the purpose of that business. So I think that's something that perhaps we could look at within Shropshire, is how do we help our businesses here start to rethink their business models, particularly as people are going to be working from home a lot more. They're going to need to be more self-organised, self-managed, and they want to feel connected to the business in some way that's greater than just beyond a pay packet. So I think culture is a piece that needs some work.
yeah, I think you're absolutely right with that, and that's now and in the future, and it's helping businesses to understand, but also helping them to feed back, like today's session, back into organisations that can try and influence those situations as well. It's a two-way thing.
Hi, I'm Julian Dean. I'm a counsellor actually, but I want to speak as a consumer, or as from the demand side. 3 points. First, in terms of the employment opportunities, it may well be the case that firms are struggling to recruit, but it's still the case that graduates are struggling to get graduate roles, and graduates are prepared to shift sector. We know that. But it is still the case that it takes them hundreds of applications to get an interview for a graduate role. So there's something missing there if we're going to retain the people who often now are coming back home after, I know this from personal experience, coming back home after completing degrees because they can't necessarily walk into a job, so they need to go back home. There's the whole boomerang generation where that's happening. That was the first one. The second is, on Saturday I went to the Green Homes event in Shrewsbury. 10 homes opened their doors to look at what they'd done in terms of retrofit and introducing low carbon heating and all that sort of stuff. The first time I went to, they had 50 visitors. That's 50 people looking to do the work on their own homes, looking to invest in greening their homes, who are really struggling. And I know that, again, from my own experience, that looking for the advice, looking for the firms who can do it, there's a real gap there. And so maybe we need sort of energy advice hubs or something, which businesses can then tap into as well to help people reach that. And then the third one, and it's a personal story, is just in terms of investment opportunities. I think that it was interesting that Ed Potter's figures showed that private investment has actually overachieved on the economic strategy. And And again, I think that taps into the green story, because there are people, and again, it's a personal experience, who will have just picked up their, retirement pots, whatever it might be, looking for opportunities to invest in a green way. Where's the advice, and where are the opportunities locally to do that? So I think there's a job perhaps to do to help the market, help the demand side as well as the supply side.
Couple of things. I'm going to steal a bit of time here because we've just run out of time, and to my colleagues online, I'm sorry, but I need to just address this one. I think we mustn't lose sight also in the whole green agenda of the job opportunities that creates, the higher level, the higher tech jobs, and that's really important that we connect people to that. On the graduate one, it's an interesting point, because as the Chamber, we've taken 3 graduates who on the Kickstarter programme. So you think, why? The question here is around the educational establishments. I'm not sure if there's any that'll shoot me. Are we bringing out of these institutions the people that businesses need now, next year and the year after? Are they actually training on what they're interested in, or are they training on what the career opportunities are of the future? Because I suspect there's a big mismatch between the two. I think a lot of people, I know from my experience, a lot of people do a degree and they don't follow a career in that degree. They go off doing something completely different. It does give them life skills, it gives them transferable skills, it gives them ability, but at the same time, there is a real question mark, and the government issued something called the Local Skills Improvement Plan Tender, which we actually tried to lead for. Go away. And we tried to lead for, and it's a really important piece where the voice of business helps shape the educational establishments, and I think you're right, absolutely right, and there's a big piece of work we can do to actually make that better.